Hello everyone and welcome to Videogame Vids, the show where we talk about video game news. This week will be a little bit special because I found out that there's a surprising amount of video game TV show news, so I bundled them together because we also had the Summer Game Fest and the Bethesda and Microsoft showcases, which of course are also quite big news. So there's a lot of video game news. I didn't have space to put everything in, so I decided to make one bundled TV show news segment. Anyway, we will still talk about Diablo 4, a Persona bundle for Microsoft and PC, and it will also come to the PlayStation. More footage of Hollow Knight Silksong, a lot of Starfield gameplay, and Street Fighter 6. Diablo 4 launches in 2023. At the conference, Blizzard has announced that Diablo 4 will be launching in 2023, which is fairly soon. This fits with the hypothesis that we talked about last week, that they probably launched Diablo Immortal as kind of a prelude, an appetizer to people so that they get back into missing Diablo 3, or specifically Diablo 3 Immortal, which is the part that everyone loved. We saw some, did we see gameplay? We saw some gameplay, but mostly it was cinematic footage. They will be reintroducing the Necromancer from, I believe, Diablo 1. But that will, I think actually it was also in Diablo 2, or maybe it was only Diablo 2, I'm not sure. But it was not in Diablo 3 until later. But it will be back together with the classes that were prominent in Diablo 3 from the start: the Barbarian, the Paladin, the Witch Hunter, and the things that I can't remember right now because I didn't play them. Oh, the Sorcerer. It's not super important. Yeah, somewhere in 2023. Usually when they don't give you a month or season, it will be late in that year, so assume Christmas 2023. Maybe you'll get it as a gift from Santa. There's actually more Diablo news, and that's that fans have actually been really negative about Diablo Immortal on Metacritic. In fact, the PC version has a 0.2, which is the lowest video game score of all time for PC. For mobile, it gets a 0.3, which means it's also at the very bottom, but I think there's like 8 games that scored worse. But yeah, that's shocking, especially because, as we discussed last week, and again, I haven't actually played this, so I can't confirm, but people say that mechanically the game is actually fun. It's just that the microtransactions and the amount of time you have to sink into this game to max out your character is just insane. I believe what I said last week was that it cost people $11,000, and also I think it would take you 2 full years to max out your character. When I say it cost them $11,000, it would hypothetically cost you $11,000. So yeah, good news and bad news for Diablo fans. Persona bundle coming to Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. During the Microsoft and Bethesda game conference, it was revealed that there will be a Persona game bundle, which will include Persona 3 Portable, my thumb is not on screen, Persona 4, and Persona 5. This is quite interesting because I think none of those games are currently on Xbox, so people are excited about that. If you have an Xbox, you never played Persona games, big shame, you should play at least 5, but I think 4 is also really good. I haven't played 3, so I can't make any claims about that, but 4 and 5 are amazing if you're patient, because they are very slow burners and they'll each take you 100 hours. More good news is that the games will launch on Xbox Game Pass on day 1. So if you have Xbox Game Pass, you basically have 300 hours of games just dropping right away, because it'll take you at least 100, well, not at least, but it'll take you about 100 hours per game to complete. That's a lot of time if you're working full-time like me and then also doing videos on the side like me, maybe DMing some games, you have no spare time, so that'll just be your whole life for the next 3 years or something. The bundles, it was later confirmed, will also be dropping on PC and PlayStation, so you can play it on all those platforms. For PlayStation, of course, we already have Persona 5 and with backwards compatibility. Wait, do we? Maybe we don't have Persona 4 with backwards compatibility, because that was a PlayStation 3 game, wasn't it? And that was really hard with backwards compatibility because of the weird chips. Anyway, we're getting to technical stuff. You have Persona 3, which previously was only on portable devices, and Persona 3 portable anyway. And Persona 4 will also be coming to PlayStation, so even they will be getting new stuff. By the way, it'll be Persona 5 Royal specifically, so with the added DLC. New Hollow Knight Silksong footage, and will be launching on Game Pass on day 1. In the Microsoft conference, and again, this is still Microsoft conference, this is all I'm talking about right now, it is revealed that Hollow Knight Silksong will be a day 1 launch for the Microsoft Game Pass, which is great news, because that means if you have Microsoft Game Pass, this game will be free. Now, in a previous video game vids, it was like 2 or 3 ago, we talked about how people are unsubscribing to Game Pass. Now, with the Microsoft conference behind us, there might be more incentive to get back into it, or at least get back into it when these games actually launch. Apart from this news, we also have new gameplay footage. And as always, it looks amazing. I'm so excited for Silksong. I loved Hollow Knight so much. I still love Hollow Knight so much, so I can't wait for this to happen. We still don't have a release date. I'm sure it'll be there whenever it's ready. Team Cherry is a very small developer team. They are working around the clock, and we actually don't want them to crunch. It's bad for people, and it's actually better for games if they don't crunch. So I want them to take their time. I want them to make the game good. Looking at the footage, that's exactly what they're doing, and I want them to keep doing that. But the downside is we don't know when the game is going to be there. It might still be a while. Starfield gameplay finally revealed. At the Bethesda conference, once again, Bethesda conference, we have had a smashing 15 minutes of Starfield gameplay. That's amazing, because we had nothing so far. So 15 minutes was quite a lot. There's a lot of space shooting. They're using the low gravity, presumably from smaller planets, because that's how gravity works, because they're doing a lot of low gravity jumping. There's exciting shooting. They also show some of the dialogue. The game's still delayed, so don't be expecting any change in that, but apparently they have enough to show this much. Now, that being said, I was watching the Outside Xbox stream of the Bethesda showcase, and they were all very excited for this reveal. I was too at first, but then I saw it was happening, and personally, I wasn't that excited. Maybe it's just me, but I feel like the gameplay looks fine, but it looks a bit generic. And then what I always loved about Fallout and the Elder Scrolls games is, of course, it's the world, but it's also the humor. The humor was just great. I very fondly remember, for example, Moira in Nuketown. She was so amazing, so funny, so amazing. But Starfield, what we've seen so far, the game seems to be taking itself very seriously. And that's a little bit disappointing to me, but oh well. I guess this week, my segment's super opinionated. You'll just have to deal with that. Street Fighter 6 will have open world and possibly crossplay. These are 2 different news articles, which will both be linked in the description below, but we've finally heard more about Street Fighter 6. Now, I personally am not big on fighting games. I enjoy them occasionally, but it's the kind of games where you really thrive if you play them a lot, and I don't do that, so I'm not speaking from a lot of expertise. Anyway, Street Fighter 6, yeah, we've got some new stuff about it. There was a Capcom showcase about it, where we learned that it will have open world elements, very interesting in a fighting game. I don't think any fighting game does that before. It will be in the world of Final Fight, and at first I thought it was going to be a side-scroller beat-em-up like Final Fight or the Scott Pilgrim game. There are other games, but it turns out that's not the case. You're just looking for challengers to have a punch-up with. There are also new customization options. You can use facial expressions to maybe taunt your opponent. We've seen pictures of Guile, which are exceptionally interesting because they decided to give him facial hair, which he never had before. So some people hate it, some people love it. It's regardless, it's different. Also, in a interview with Eurogamer, Capcom has alluded that there might be crossplay for the Street Fighter 6 game. That means that, if you're not familiar with crossplay, that means that people on PlayStation will be able to play against people on Xbox, people on PC. I don't think it's on the Switch, but if it was, then you could also play against them. However, they are still a bit cagey about this, so we don't know for sure. Fans have always wanted crossplay, of course, because then it doesn't matter what console you have, you can always play with your friends, you can play with the entire world instead of only one specific group of people, the people that played on Xbox. I know that Capcom is traditionally quite difficult with crossplay. Specifically, I play a lot of Monster Hunter, and those never have crossplay, and that just sucks because I play them usually on release because I've reviewed the last two games for XGN and for NWTV. It's not important, but that does mean that I got them both for console, which is great, and I played it from day one or earlier even, and that was also great. But then when my friends later got into it, they wanted to play on PC, of course, and then I had to buy the game again. That sucks. If there was crossplay, I wouldn't have to buy it again. And then, it wouldn't even be so bad if there was cross-save. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. I'm gonna stop the segment. Video game TV show news bundled. There is a surprising amount of Netflix and HBO TV shows about video games this week. And because we already have the Summer Game Fest and the Microsoft Bethesda showcases, I didn't have enough slots to talk about all of them. So I'm just gonna bundle them together. So, first off, the Castlevania spin-off show now has an official name, Castlevania Nocturne. Of course, it is about vampires, so the title Nocturne is obviously a fitting one. We also learned that it is about Richter Belmont, who is, if you're familiar with the Castlevania games, the main character of the first, I believe, two games, because the third one is what the original Netflix show is about with the other Belmont. I forgot his name. Don't have time. Moving on. The Cuphead show, season 2, is coming in mid-August, which is surprisingly soon. The original show was only half a year ago, I believe, we watched it. Cuphead is a incredibly difficult but also impossibly charming bullet hell shooter with some side-scrolling run and gun segments, but mostly you're fighting bosses. The Cuphead show was surprisingly fun, so I'm looking forward to the second season. And if you weren't aware, there's also a surprisingly good Cuphead board game called, let me check, Cuphead, the fast-rolling dice game. You can actually, if you're Dutch, you can read my review on XGN, so you can go ahead and do that. Moving on, next, the Dragon Age Netflix show has been announced. In my previous video game vids, we talked about Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which will be basically Dragon Age 4. Dragon Age Absolution, as the show is called, will take place in Tevinter, which is the same region as Dreadwolf. So some of the characters might show up in both. Who knows? We don't actually know if it's a prequel, a sequel, or if it happens at the same time. There is a pretty cool trailer which you can go watch. The link is in the description below. Moving on. At the Summer Game Fest, Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson have actually announced that they will be in the HBO The Last of Us series. We already know that they will not be playing Joel and Ellie because the actors for that have already been confirmed. I forgot who they are because we're bundling this all together. I'm not going to take time to look it up. So, Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker, the original actors of Ellie and Joel, respectively, the two main characters of both of the Last of Us games, will have some kind of role in the upcoming show, which, in my opinion, is pretty fun. That's all for this week's video game vids. Next week, we'll be back to only 5 pieces. Anyway, you can watch next week's video, or you can watch yesterday's board game bits. Bye!